Welcome to FactFlow, where curiosity meets clarity and the world becomes a little more fascinating with every minute you spend here. Today, we're diving into one of the most mind-expanding subjects on Earth, geography, but not the way you learned it in school. This isn't about memorizing capitals or drawing borders. This is about uncovering the hidden stories behind the planet we live on. The surprising truths, shocking statistics, and unbelievable facts that reveal how humans, nature, and the environment shape each other every single day. From islands packed with millions of people to countries so empty you could walk for hours without seeing another soul. From volcanoes that burn blue to cities that never stop growing. Today's journey spans the extraordinary diversity of Earth. So sit back, focus in, and get ready. Because what you're about to learn may completely change how you see the world. For most people, geography seems like a simple matter of maps, borders, and capital cities. But hidden beneath what we think we know is a world shaped by myths, ideas so widely repeated that millions accept them as facts. The truth, however, reveals something far more complex and far more fascinating. Geography is full of misconceptions, and some are so deeply rooted that they distort our understanding of countries, populations, and even the natural features that define entire regions. One of the most common myths revolves around the population distribution of the Earth. Many assume that people are spread somewhat evenly across continents, imagining large stretches of land filled with bustling cities. But the reality is startlingly different. Nearly 9% of the global population, around 730 million people, live on islands, despite islands making up only a small fraction of the world's landmass. Even more surprising is that the most populated island in the world is Java, an island smaller than many US states, yet home to over 140 million people. For countless viewers, this challenges the assumption that islands are quiet, remote places rather than dense human hubs. Another widely believed myth is that the largest cities in the world are spread across multiple continents, a natural assumption considering global development. But the truth is more concentrated and far more revealing. The four most populous cities on Earth are all in Asia, with Tokyo, Jakarta, Delhi, and Seoul, each surpassing 25 million residents. This concentration doesn't just reflect population growth. It highlights deep economic and cultural forces driving urbanization in the East. Millions believe cities like New York, London, or Los Angeles dominate global population rankings, but in reality, they don't even come close. Geography myths also spread when people think about continents. Many imagine that Africa is the largest continent because maps often distort land size, making Africa appear enormous and Asia somewhat comparable. Yet Asia is the largest continent in both size and population, covering more than 44 million square kilometers and holding nearly 60% of the entire world's population. The myth persists largely because people confuse map projections with real measurements, a reminder that even our tools can mislead us. Then there's the assumption that natural wonders follow predictable patterns, that rivers flow normally, volcanoes erupt with typical red lava, and landscapes are shaped in expected ways. But Indonesia challenges that misconception with a geological marvel, a volcano that appears to spill blue lava. While not truly blue molten rock, the phenomenon is created by burning sulfuric gases, something so rare that many don't believe it until they see it. This unique sight defies expectations and highlights how geography often hides secrets in plain view. Political geography is another minefield of misconceptions. Many believe that the number of countries in the world is fixed and universal. Ask someone how many countries exist, and they'll confidently respond with a familiar number. Yet geopolitical reality is far more complex. Not every territory is universally recognized. Disputed lands, partially recognized nations, enclaves and unrecognized regions complicate what many assume to be a simple global map. Geography is not static. It shifts, evolves, and transforms with history, conflict, and diplomacy. Even the concept of population density leads to misunderstandings. People often picture crowded cities like Tokyo as the pinnacle of density, but few know that Singapore and several microstates far exceed these levels. Meanwhile, a country as vast as Mongolia has a population density so low, 2 people per square kilometer, that entire regions stretch in silence, contradicting the belief that population is evenly distributed. Each of these myths isn't just incorrect. They shape how people think about nations, cultures, and environments. They influence opinions about development, climate, migration, and global power. And as we continue our journey through this video, one theme will become unmistakably clear. The world is far stranger, more dynamic, and more awe-inspiring than any myth or assumption can capture. Nature is breathtaking, powerful, and essential for life. But it can also transform in an instant into a force that challenges everything humanity has ever built. Geography teaches us not only where mountains, forests, and oceans lie, but also how these landscapes behave when pushed to extremes. Many people imagine natural disasters as rare events or distant tragedies, happening mostly in specific danger zones. But the truth is much more unsettling. The Earth is constantly shifting, heating, cooling, erupting, and rebuilding itself, and every continent holds its own dangers. To understand the power of nature, we must start with one of the most misunderstood environments on Earth, the islands. While often seen as peaceful paradises, they are also some of the most vulnerable places to natural disasters. With over 730 million people living on islands, they sit directly in the path of tropical cyclones, tsunamis, and rising sea levels. Java, the world's most populated island, is not just dense. It lies in the Pacific Ring of Fire, a region responsible for some of the strongest earthquakes and volcanic eruptions ever recorded. Cities built near coastlines or volcanoes aren't just scenic. They're balancing between beauty and danger every single day. Asia, home to both the largest populations and some of Earth's most extreme environments, is a continent where nature constantly tests human resilience. The same region that hosts the 4 most populated cities, Tokyo, Jakarta, Delhi, and Seoul, is also home to earthquakes, torrential monsoons, and seasonal weather swings so powerful they can transform entire landscapes overnight. In Tokyo, residents live with the constant knowledge that beneath their feet lies a network of tectonic plates capable of producing disasters larger than anything humans can design against. Geography here isn't just a subject, it's a daily reality. But extreme natural conditions aren't limited to iconic disasters. Some of the most unusual environments exist far from the spotlight. In Indonesia, geography creates a phenomenon so visually shocking that many believe it's fake. Blue lava flowing from a volcano as sulfuric gases ignite in the night air. This is a reminder that the planet's behavior is often stranger, more intense, and more unpredictable than myths suggest. Even scientists studying these phenomena admit that Earth still holds countless mysteries, environments that behave in ways humans have barely begun to understand. On the opposite end of the spectrum lies Mongolia, a country where geography has carved out one of the least populated areas on the planet. With just 2 people per square kilometer, the land can feel vast, silent, and untouched. But within these empty landscapes come environmental challenges that urban populations rarely face. from extreme winters that can freeze entire herds of livestock to dust storms that sweep across hundreds of miles. This is nature's quiet power, harsh, cold, and relentless. While Mongolia lacks the dramatic disasters seen in other regions, its environment demands respect, preparation, and a deep understanding of how to survive far from modern infrastructure. Geography also reveals the connection between natural disasters and human behavior. Take coastal megacities, for example. While millions continue to migrate toward the ocean for opportunity, trade, and economic growth, these same areas face rising sea levels at accelerating rates. Entire neighborhoods in countries like Indonesia and Bangladesh are sinking, not metaphorically, but literally, as groundwater extraction weakens the land beneath them. Geography here becomes a reminder that human decisions can amplify nature's impact, turning manageable risks into looming threats. Then there's the phenomenon of extreme rainfall. Some parts of the world experience precipitation levels so intense that an entire year's worth of rain in other countries can fall in a single month. This isn't just a statistic. It shapes rivers, reshapes valleys, and forces communities to adapt or vanish. The Earth's hydrology is a powerful teacher, showing us that water, something essential for life, can also become one of the most destructive elements on the planet. What makes natural disasters particularly compelling is the way they highlight a simple truth. Geography is alive. Continents move, oceans rise and fall, and climates shift in cycles that stretch back millions of years. Human beings often forget that we are guests on a planet constantly changing, and these reminders, whether through volcanic eruptions, floods, or catastrophic storms, are part of Earth's ongoing story. Understanding geography means recognizing that nature is not against us, but it is indifferent to us. It follows rules older and more powerful than any civilization. And the more we learn, the more we appreciate the delicate balance between human life and the environment that sustains it. Survival isn't about fear. It's about respect, awareness, and the knowledge that the planet will always have the final word. Every mountain range, river valley, coastline, and desert on Earth is more than a physical feature. It is a blueprint. Geography is the silent architect that has shaped the rise and fall of civilizations for thousands of years. Before borders, before governments, and long before technology, the forces of nature decided where people could live, farm, trade, and defend themselves. Understanding this hidden architecture is one of the most powerful ways to understand how humanity became what it is today. Take mountains, for example. They may look like massive, immovable giants, but in reality, they act as barriers, climate controllers, and cultural separators. The Himalayas, the tallest and most dramatic mountain system on Earth, don't just divide countries. They divide climates, languages, religions, and entire ways of life. On one side lies the Indian subcontinent, hot, monsoon-driven, and densely populated. On the other, the cold, dry Tibetan plateau stretches like a frozen roof of the world. These mountains have shaped wars, trade, migration, and even the genetic diversity of the people who live around them. Rivers tell a similar story. The world's earliest cities were not random miracles. They were born beside rivers like the Nile, Tigris, Euphrates, Indus, and Yellow River, because water meant survival. A river provided more than drinking water. It offered transportation, fertile soil, flood-driven nutrients, and a natural defense line against invaders. Civilizations didn't choose rivers. Rivers chose civilizations. Even today, many of the world's largest modern cities still sit on these ancient waterways, proving that nature's blueprint does not fade, it evolves. But geography does not always help. Sometimes it limits. The Sahara Desert, stretching across North Africa like an ocean of sand, created a barrier so vast and unforgiving that it isolated entire cultures for centuries. While empires rose and fell along the Mediterranean coast, the heart of Africa developed along a different timeline, shaped by forests, rainfall patterns, and river networks. This wasn't due to weakness, but due to the raw realities of its landscapes. Movement was harder, agriculture demanded different techniques, and the environment itself required a distinct relationship between humans and nature. Coastlines, on the other hand, tell a completely different story. They are the world's gateways. Civilizations that developed along coastlines, like those in Greece, Italy, Japan, China, and the Arabian Peninsula, became leaders in trade, exploration, navigation, and cultural exchange. The sea connected them to the world. Even storms, tsunamis, and unpredictable waves couldn't stop their expansion because the ocean offered something more valuable: opportunity. Geography placed them on the edge of continents, but that edge became the center of global exchange. Climate zones are another silent influencer. In the tropics, heat and humidity shaped cultures that developed systems to deal with abundant water, dense forests, and fertile land. In northern latitudes, long winters forced innovation in storage, architecture, and community cooperation. Societies in dry regions like the Middle East were engineered around water scarcity, leading to some of the earliest irrigation systems in human history. Geography doesn't dictate intelligence or potential. It dictates challenges, and humans adapt brilliantly to challenges. Even modern geopolitics is deeply rooted in geographic reality. Countries with wide coastlines tend to dominate trade. Countries with large flatlands often become agricultural giants. Countries with natural barriers, such as mountains or deserts, develop unique cultural identities and stronger defensive strategies. And countries sitting at the crossroads of continents, such as Egypt, Turkey, and Singapore, become global hubs, not because of their size, but because of their position. But perhaps the most overlooked force in geography is plate tectonics, the engine beneath our feet. The movement of Earth's plates has shaped continents, lifted mountain ranges, opened oceans, and created resource-rich regions that nations depend on today. Without tectonic activity, there would be no Himalayas, no Pacific Ring of Fire, no volcanic soil that feeds millions. The planet's interior is constantly reshaping the world's map, and civilizations adapt as the land itself changes over time. In the end, geography is not just about mountains and rivers. It is about power, survival, connection, and identity. It forms the foundation on which every empire is built and every culture evolves. When you learn to read the terrain, you learn to read history. And when you learn to read history, you begin to understand the future. Geography isn't always clean and organized. In fact, some of the strangest, most unbelievable things on Earth exist simply because of accidents of history, unusual political negotiations, ancient royal marriages, forgotten treaties, or just pure geographical chaos. Welcome to the bizarre side of the world map, a side where borders twist like snakes, where countries are trapped inside countries, and where shapes, lines, and territories defy all logic. One of the strangest phenomena in political geography is the existence of enclaves and exclaves. Imagine a piece of land that belongs to one country but is completely surrounded by another, almost like a puzzle piece that was dropped in the wrong box. The world's most extreme example used to be in the India-Bangladesh border region, where you had enclaves inside enclaves. Some of these tiny plots were so small that people could walk across one in less than a minute. They had residents who technically belonged to one country, but had to physically walk through another just to reach their own homeland. It created confusion in law, taxes, police work, and even education. A simple trip to the store could mean crossing 3 international borders. And then there's Vatican City, an entire sovereign country squeezed inside the city of Rome. It's the smallest country in the world, yet holds some of the most important religious, historical, and political influence on Earth. Just a 20-minute walk around its walls reveals one of the weirdest truths in geography. Size does not equal power. Another bizarre case is Lesotho, a country entirely surrounded by South Africa. It's not a city, not a territory. It's a full nation with its own king, government, culture, and identity. To leave or enter Lesotho, you must pass through South Africa no matter what. Its isolation is the result of mountain geography mixed with colonial history, creating a modern nation trapped within another. But borders don't just create strange political identities, they create strange shapes too. Look at Kazakhstan, which appears to have a mysterious hole inside it on the map. That hole is actually the Aral Sea, once one of the largest lakes on Earth, now almost fully dried due to decades of water diversion. Geography changed because of human decisions, and the shape of the region changed with it. Or consider Alaska, a chunk of the United States that is nowhere near the rest of the country, separated by thousands of kilometers of Canadian land. Its presence on the world map is a direct result of an old Russian sale, a decision that changed the strategic balance of North America forever. But few border stories are as strange as Bir Tawil, a small desert triangle between Egypt and Sudan that belongs to no one. Both countries refuse to claim it because doing so would force them to give up a larger, more valuable piece of land nearby. As a result, Bir Tawil became one of the only unclaimed regions on Earth, a place where geography, politics, and human stubbornness collided to produce something almost unbelievable: a countryless land. The world's shapes also hide trivia that feels impossible. Canada has the longest coastline of any country, but also has millions of lakes, more than the rest of the world combined. Russia spans 11 time zones, meaning sunrise and sunset vary wildly across its borders. Norway owns an incredibly skinny strip of land that zigzags across the Arctic coast, giving it control over precious fishing and energy resources. And Australia, despite being massive, has nearly all its population hugging a thin ring around the coast because the center is dominated by harsh desert. Even international borders sometimes cut through buildings. The border of Belgium and the Netherlands runs directly through homes, restaurants, and cafes in the town of Bâle. Some buildings have front doors belonging to one country and living rooms belonging to another, creating one of the most charmingly chaotic border layouts ever recorded. And perhaps the strangest thing of all is that many of these oddities remain simply because it would be too complicated to fix them. Changing borders means rewriting treaties, renegotiating power, and sometimes reopening old conflicts. So the world lives with these glitches, little reminders that history is messy, humanity is imperfect, and the planet doesn't follow our rules. Geography isn't just about maps and measurements. It's about stories of accidents, mistakes, chance, and the incredible human ability to adapt to even the strangest circumstances. Earth is a place of breathtaking beauty, but hidden within its landscapes are environments so intense, so unforgiving, and so extreme that they challenge every rule of nature. These are the places where temperatures break records, where storms tear apart entire regions, where rain never falls or falls too much, and where life is forced to rewrite its own survival manual. Welcome to the edges of the world, geography's ultimate test zones. Let's start with the hottest place on Earth, the Lut Desert in Iran. Satellite measurements recorded surface temperatures reaching nearly 160 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt plastic, scorch metal, and destroy almost any form of life. Nothing grows there. There are no animals, no insects, not even bacteria thriving in the soil. It is a reminder that Earth, despite being full of life, still holds pockets that push life to its breaking point. On the opposite side of the spectrum lies Antarctica, the coldest place on the planet. This is a continent where winter temperatures plunge to -128 degrees Fahrenheit, and the air is so dry it behaves like a desert. Despite being covered in ice more than a mile thick, Antarctica gets less annual precipitation than the Sahara. It is a frozen paradox, a land that appears full of water yet remains one of the driest, emptiest places on Earth. Weather extremes don't stop at temperature. Consider Mawsynram in India, the wettest inhabited place in the world. It receives so much rain that roofs must be built incredibly steep to avoid collapsing, and many homes rely on layers of grass to absorb sound because the rainfall is deafening. People there literally live under waterfalls from the sky, with more than 467 inches of rain each year. Meanwhile, the Atacama Desert in Chile is so dry that parts of it have not seen rain for centuries. NASA studies regions of the Atacama because its dryness resembles Mars, meaning Earth has places so extreme they mimic other planets. Even more surprising, researchers found microorganisms living there, showing how life finds a way even under impossible conditions. Then there's Mount Everest, the tallest peak in the world, reaching more than 29,000 feet into the sky. But height alone doesn't define its extremity. It's the death zone, where oxygen levels drop so low that the human body begins to shut down. It is a place where weather changes without warning, where winds can exceed hurricane speeds, and where temperatures freeze exposed skin instantly. Yet thousands attempt the climb every year, drawn by the raw power of Earth's greatest mountain. And, of course, Earth's extremes are not only on land. In the ocean depths lies the Mariana Trench, the deepest point on Earth, descending more than 36,000 feet. That's deeper than Mount Everest is tall. Down there, pressure is 8 tons per square inch, enough to crush submarines. Yet nature surprises us again. Strange bioluminescent creatures, alien-like fish and bizarre organisms survive where sunlight never reaches. Some extremes are shaped by water, others by wind. The Dalol hydrothermal field in Ethiopia looks like a painting brought to life. Pools of neon green, yellow and orange created by acidic water and volcanic activity. The air is filled with toxic gases, and temperatures routinely exceed 110 degrees Fahrenheit. It is one of the most surreal and unearthly places on the planet. Geography extremes also shape human life. Tornado Alley in the United States experiences some of the most violent storms on Earth, with tornadoes capable of shredding homes and tossing cars through the air like toys. Meanwhile, countries like Bangladesh face devastating monsoon floods that force millions to adapt their homes, farms, and entire lifestyles around seasonal water threats. But it's not all about danger. Sometimes extremes create beauty. The northern lights in the polar regions paint the sky with brilliant waves of green, blue, and purple caused by solar particles colliding with Earth's magnetic field. It is one of the most stunning natural displays on the planet, a light show that exists because Earth is constantly interacting with the sun. What's fascinating is that many of these extremes are not static. They evolve. Volcanoes reshape landscapes overnight. Climate change intensifies storms and heat waves. Rising sea levels alter coastlines. Geography is alive, shifting, growing, eroding, and rewriting the borders of nature itself. The more we understand Earth's extremes, the more we understand our planet's capabilities and its limits. These environments show us how fragile life can be, how powerful nature truly is, and how geography is not just a backdrop, but a force that shapes everything living on this world. The earth beneath us feels solid, steady, and unchanging, but this is an illusion. Under our feet lies a world in constant motion, plates drifting, rocks melting, pressure building, and forces so powerful that they can reshape continents. Volcanoes and earthquakes are not random disasters. They are the Earth speaking, breathing, and evolving. To understand this restlessness, imagine the Earth's crust as a giant puzzle made of massive slabs called tectonic plates. These plates float on molten rock deeper below, moving as slowly as your fingernails grow. But even slow movement creates colossal energy. Where plates meet, the Earth becomes a theater of violent geological drama. Let's start with volcanoes, the fiery vents that connect us to the planet's molten heart. There are more than 1,500 active volcanoes on Earth, each a pressure valve releasing heat from deep within. Some volcanoes erupt quietly, letting lava flow like glowing rivers. Others explode with such force that they reshape landscapes, alter climates, and even affect civilizations. Take Mount Vesuvius in Italy. Its eruption in AD 79 buried entire cities in ash, preserving them like time capsules. Or Krakatoa in Indonesia, whose explosion in 1883 was so powerful it was heard almost 2,000 miles away. The blast generated tsunamis, darkened skies around the world, and caused temperatures to drop globally for years. But volcanoes are not always catastrophic. Islands like Hawaii were born from volcanic activity and continue to grow through gentle lava flows. Volcanic soil is some of the most fertile on Earth, supporting lush vegetation and agriculture. Volcanoes create destruction, but they also build, enrich, and renew. Now shift your focus to earthquakes, sudden shakes caused when tectonic plates grind, collide, or slip past each other. These movements accumulate tension over decades or centuries until the Earth can no longer hold it, releasing it in a jolt that can topple buildings and fracture the ground. The Ring of Fire, a horseshoe-shaped zone around the Pacific Ocean, is the most earthquake-prone region on the planet. Nearly 90% of the world's earthquakes occur there. It's also home to the largest concentration of active volcanoes. Nations like Japan, Chile, and Indonesia have learned to live with constant seismic threats, developing early warning systems and engineering marvels to protect their cities. One of the most dramatic earthquake phenomena is liquefaction, when solid ground temporarily behaves like a liquid. Buildings sink, cars tilt, and the ground ripples like waves. This occurred during the 2011 Japan earthquake and caused catastrophic damage. It is a reminder that the Earth, stable as it appears, can transform in seconds. Beneath the oceans, earthquakes can trigger tsunamis, massive waves capable of crossing entire oceans. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, triggered by a megathrust quake, is one of the deadliest natural disasters in history. It taught the world the importance of ocean-based warning systems, and today, sensors across the seas constantly watch for sudden rises in water pressure. Beyond volcanoes and earthquakes, Earth's crust produces other fascinating phenomena. Geysers, such as those in Yellowstone National Park, shoot boiling water into the sky from underground pressure. Hot springs warm entire towns. Fault lines carve mountains and valleys. Even the tallest mountain ranges on Earth, the Himalayas, were formed when two enormous plates collided, pushing land upward over millions of years. All of this tells a greater story. Earth is not a static planet. It is alive. Its crust cracks, melts, shifts, and rebuilds. Geography is not only about mapping the world as it is, but also understanding the forces that continuously redesign it. Volcanoes remind us that beauty can rise from fire. Earthquakes show us that strength can hide fragility, and together they reveal that the ground we walk on, as familiar as it feels, is part of a dynamic planet that never stops changing. Nature doesn't negotiate. It doesn't slow down, pause, or offer second chances. When you're exposed to the raw elements, blistering heat, bone-chilling cold, violent winds, or the silent dangers of open water, survival depends on one thing: understanding the rules that nature never breaks. Imagine standing in the desert. The horizon ripples under the sun, the air feels like it's burning your lungs, and every breath seems heavier than the one before it. Heat is one of nature's most deceptive killers. It drains you without warning, first through sweat, then through dizziness, then confusion. Many people believe dehydration is the first threat, but the truth is simpler and more dangerous. The body overheats long before it runs out of water. Once your core temperature rises beyond what the body can regulate, every organ begins to fail silently. In extreme heat, shade isn't comfort, it's strategy, and timing is survival. But flip the world upside down, and you find an enemy that kills just as quickly. Cold. Not frostbite, not stiff fingers, but hypothermia. The moment your body starts losing heat faster than it can produce it. The cold doesn't rush, it creeps. It begins with shivering, then numbness. But the most dangerous stage is when you stop shivering, not because you're warm, but because your body is giving up. Snowstorms, freezing rain, high-altitude winds, each one strips heat away like a thief in the night. And in this environment, even the smallest mistake, wet clothing, a dropped glove, a moment of panic, can turn a minor problem into a fatal chain reaction. Wind, though invisible, is just as deadly. Strong gusts can knock a person off balance, but the real threat lies in how wind steals heat, fans flames, and turns debris into weapons. In open terrain, wind direction controls everything: where you walk, where you shelter, and how you conserve energy. The difference between walking with the wind or against it can determine whether you make it back home or collapse halfway there. Then comes water, a force so calm and familiar that people forget its hidden dangers. Think of open water. Lakes that appear still on the surface hide powerful undercurrents below. Rivers, even shallow ones, can sweep a person away as fast as a running animal. And the ocean. The ocean has its own rule book. Rip currents pull you away from shore faster than you can swim. Waves can strike like moving walls. Cold water shocks the lungs, causing instant disorientation. In water, panic is the greatest killer, because panic wastes oxygen faster than fear itself. But the elements don't kill only through force. Sometimes they attack through illusion. In deserts, mirages distort distance and direction. In snow-covered landscapes, everything looks the same, leaving travelers walking in circles. Fog hides cliffs, rivers, and predators. Nights in the wilderness erase the line between safety and danger. Survival, in every environment, begins with recognition. The sky tells a story before a storm arrives. Clouds change shape, colors shift, winds rotate, and even the smell of the air transforms. Animals react faster than humans. Birds fly lower, insects disappear, and silence spreads through forests before extreme weather hits. Nature warns those who listen. Mastering nature's rules doesn't mean fighting the elements. It means cooperating with them, using shade during heat instead of resisting it, conserving body heat instead of trying to overpower the cold, reading the wind instead of battling it, moving with water instead of against it. Every environment has its rhythm, and survival belongs to those who adapt to it. In the end, nature is not an enemy. It's a powerful teacher. Its lessons are harsh but fair, and its rules are absolute. Once you understand them, the wilderness stops feeling like a threat and becomes something else entirely: predictable, readable, and navigable. When knowledge replaces fear, survival becomes skill, and skill becomes confidence. Borders. They look simple on a map, thin lines drawn in ink, dividing colors and names. But in reality, borders are among the most powerful forces shaping human life. They determine languages, identities, governments, opportunities, and even destinies. Some are marked by towering mountains, others by rivers that have flowed for thousands of years, and some exist only because someone, somewhere, drew a line across a landscape they had never even visited. Imagine flying over Earth at night. Cities glow like constellations, coastlines shimmer, and mountain ranges carve shadows across continents. From that height, borders disappear. Nature doesn't divide itself, humans do. And every border carries a story. Some borders are ancient. The Himalayas, for example, naturally separate South Asia from the Tibetan Plateau, forming one of the strongest geographic barriers on the planet. For thousands of years, this mountain range has shaped trade, migration, and culture. It didn't need fences or signs. Its height alone determined where civilizations expanded. Others are political, drawn by treaties, wars, or negotiations. The longest international border in the world, between the United States and Canada, stretches for nearly 9,000 kilometers. Yet instead of walls or fortifications, much of it is marked by forests, lakes, and a thin, cleared line through the wilderness. It is both peaceful and immense, reminding us that borders can reflect cooperation just as easily as conflict. Then there are borders that exist in the strangest places. Take Bâle, a town split between Belgium and the Netherlands, where houses, cafes, and even rooms are divided by international lines. A single restaurant may have its kitchen in one country and its dining area in another. These micro-borders create a puzzle of enclaves and counter-enclaves, human geography turned into a real-world labyrinth. And speaking of enclaves, some countries exist entirely inside others. San Marino lies within Italy, while Lesotho sits landlocked inside South Africa. These nations are sovereign, with their own governments, laws, and cultures, yet surrounded completely by another state. Their existence challenges the idea of what a nation must be, and proves that geography often bends to history, not the other way around. Some borders are almost invisible but incredibly significant, like the line dividing Europe and Asia. There's no wall, no river, no natural divide stretching the entire distance. Instead, it's a cultural and historical boundary, marked by mountain ranges in some places and agreed-upon lines in others. The Caucasus region sits directly on this border, where nations, languages, and identities blend in complex patterns. Geography here doesn't just shape politics, it shapes who people believe themselves to be. But borders also move. Seas rise and swallow coastlines. Rivers shift their paths and alter boundaries. Political power changes hands, redrawing maps. In some places, borders shift without anyone noticing. In others, they spark conflict, migration, or transformation. And yet, multiple nations share borders that stand unchanged for centuries. The border between Portugal and Spain is one of the oldest still intact, remaining stable for more than 700 years. Contrast that with regions like the Middle East or Africa, where colonial boundaries ignored tribes, languages, and cultures, creating divisions that still influence modern conflicts and alliances. Even more fascinating are borders in the ocean. Countries claim vast territories of underwater land, extending their economic influence far beyond their coastlines. These maritime boundaries determine fishing rights, oil extraction, environmental protection zones, and global trade routes. Beneath the waves, borders are just as important as those on land, even though no one can see them. Borders define citizenship. A single line can determine what language you speak, what currency you use, and which laws govern your life. But they also shape cultures, creating unique blends at the edges. Border cities often mix languages, cuisines, traditions, and identities, turning them into some of the most dynamic places on Earth. Yet perhaps the most interesting truth of all is this. Borders are temporary, but landscapes are eternal. Mountains rise, continents drift, rivers carve new channels, and climates transform. Humanity keeps drawing lines, adjusting territories, and redefining nations, while Earth continues reshaping itself beneath our feet. Borders may divide us on paper, but geography, the forests, oceans, deserts, rivers, mountains, binds us all to the same planet. An understanding that balance between human boundaries and natural landscapes gives us a deeper appreciation of how geography influences our world. Every conflict, every cooperation, every culture, every identity. Population. It sounds like a simple word, just the number of people living in a particular place. But behind every statistic lies a story of survival, migration, culture, climate, and geography. When you look at the world through population numbers, everything changes. You begin to see patterns that shape economies, influence politics, drive history, and even determine the future of humanity. Imagine standing on a map of the world, watching populations appear like glowing clusters of light. Some areas blaze fiercely, cities where millions are packed together in towering megastructures. Others are dim or nearly invisible. Remote valleys, frozen landscapes, deserts, or open plains where human presence fades into the environment. Let's start with extremes. Mongolia, for example, is one of the least densely populated countries on Earth. Vast steppes, rolling mountains, and sweeping deserts stretch endlessly, with only a few people scattered across enormous distances. The land dictates life, nomadic traditions, isolation, and a rhythm shaped by nature rather than cities. Compare that with Singapore, a small island city-state where more than 5 million people live within a tight and efficient grid. The city rises vertically, a forest of skyscrapers built to maximize every square meter. The contrast between Mongolia and Singapore isn't just about numbers. It's about how geography molds culture, infrastructure, and daily life. One nation embraces open horizons. The other builds upward toward the sky. But density isn't only about modern cities. Some islands, tiny dots in the ocean, hold astonishing numbers of people. Java, for example, is home to more than 140 million residents. An island smaller than many American states supports one of the densest and most active human societies on the planet. Meanwhile, thousands of kilometers away, Greenland, the world's largest island, remains almost empty, with most of its land locked under ice. These differences shape everything: economies, transportation, food production, and even social behavior. Crowded cities tend to innovate rapidly. They create pressure, competition, and creativity. Low-density regions, on the other hand, preserve traditions, natural environments, and slower rhythms of life. Population facts also reveal unexpected truths. Many people don't realize that over 730 million humans live on islands, about 1/10 of everyone on Earth. Islands, despite their size, are some of the most important human hubs. They carry unique cultures, separate identities, and often face extreme environmental challenges, such as rising sea levels, storms, and limited resources. Numbers can even expose the future. Take South Korea, where the fertility rate has dropped to shocking lows, among the lowest ever recorded globally. This means fewer births, an aging population, and a future where the workforce shrinks dramatically. Geography isn't only about land, it's about how people choose to live on that land, and numbers like these hint at major societal shifts ahead. Population data also tells us about global connection. Think about the world's megacities: Tokyo, Jakarta, Delhi, Seoul, all in Asia, all housing more than 25 million people each. These cities are engines of economies, but they're also pressure points where infrastructure must adapt constantly. Transportation systems stretch to their limits. Housing costs surge, energy demands rise. Yet, despite these challenges, megacities continue to grow because they offer something powerful: opportunity. Even political geography is influenced by population distribution. Countries with large populations often carry massive economic or geopolitical influence. But sometimes the opposite is true. Small nations with limited populations can hold enormous cultural, economic, or strategic power because of location, natural resources, or historical impact. And then there's the human story behind every number. Population shifts tell us where people are moving, from villages to cities, from colder regions to warmer climates, from conflict zones to safer horizons. Migration patterns create new cultural blends, new languages, and new communities. Geography becomes a living, breathing force shaping human destinies. One of the most fascinating population facts is how unevenly humans are spread across Earth. Most of the planet's land is empty or lightly populated. Humanity crowds into a surprisingly small percentage of the surface, gathering near coasts, rivers, and fertile plains. This imbalance reveals how deeply we depend on geography. Water sources, mild climates, arable land, and natural trade routes still determine where we build our homes. And yet, despite all the statistics, the most powerful lesson is this: population numbers aren't just data. They're a map of human behavior, history, and the choices societies make. Every population rise, decline, or migration wave tells a story about how people adapt to the world around them. Geography isn't just the background of human life. It is one of the main characters shaping our world, silently steering civilizations across time. Knowledge is more than information. It's a form of power. And when it comes to geography, that power becomes even more profound. Geography isn't just about maps, borders, or place names. It's the hidden force behind economies, cultures, climates, conflicts, and the way human beings move and survive on this planet. When you truly understand geography, you begin to understand the world at a deeper level. Why countries rise and fall, why cities explode with population, why some regions flourish while others struggle, and why humanity behaves the way it does across different environments. Imagine holding a lens that allows you to see the world not as random events and scattered facts, but as a coordinated system where everything is connected. That's what geography gives you. It reveals the logic behind the world's complexity. It explains why civilizations grow near rivers, why deserts create cultural isolation, why mountains act as protective shields, and why oceans become highways for trade and migration. Let's explore how knowledge, especially geographical knowledge, can reshape the way we live. Start with awareness. When you know that over 8 billion people share this planet, you begin to see global issues differently. Population density isn't just a statistic. It's a clue to why traffic jams happen, why housing prices rise, why cities innovate, and why some regions face greater environmental pressure than others. Every piece of demographic data carries a hidden message about how humans interact with space. Understanding geography also sharpens your ability to predict outcomes. Regions with aging populations face workforce shortages and economic strain. Nations positioned along major trade routes gain influence and prosperity. Areas vulnerable to natural disasters require stronger infrastructure and faster adaptation strategies. With the right knowledge, you begin to see the future forming before it arrives. But geography isn't only about human systems. It's about the planet itself: volcanoes, earthquakes, oceans, islands, deserts, forests, and the silent geological processes that quietly shape our environment. The more you learn about natural features like Indonesia's blue lava volcano or the world's deepest lakes and tallest waterfalls, the more you appreciate the raw, unpredictable forces of nature. These wonders aren't just facts. They're reminders that Earth is alive, dynamic, and constantly evolving. Knowledge also brings perspective. When you discover that Mongolia has only 2 people per square kilometer, while Singapore has more than 8,000, you see how geography influences lifestyles, traditions, and the structure of societies. When you learn that countries like Italy preserve dozens of UNESCO World Heritage Sites, you begin to understand the global significance of cultural history and environmental conservation. One of the most transformative aspects of geography is how it reveals humanity's differences and similarities. From the hundreds of languages in Papua New Guinea to the vast urban landscapes of Tokyo and Delhi, the world is a mosaic of cultures shaped by land, climate, and history. Geography shows us how people adapt, survive, and thrive in environments utterly different from our own. And yet, in all this diversity, there's a common thread. Humans rely on their surroundings more than they realize. Geography teaches humility. It shows us that we are not separate from the world. We are shaped by it. Our cities, borders, lifestyles, economies, and even our identities are deeply influenced by the spaces we inhabit. But beyond everything else, geography teaches curiosity, the desire to explore, to understand, to uncover hidden patterns and unexpected truths. Each fact you learn becomes a tool, a key to unlocking a bigger picture. Geography transforms simple curiosity into real-world insight. In a world that changes faster than ever, knowledge becomes your compass. And geography? It becomes the map that shows you where the world has been, where it is now, and where it's heading next. Thank you for joining us on this journey through 100 of the most fascinating geography facts on Earth. If this video opened your eyes to the hidden stories behind our planet, the populations, landscapes, cultures, and natural wonders that shape human life, then there's so much more waiting for you. Make sure to subscribe to FactFlow, where curiosity meets clarity, and every video brings you closer to understanding the world we live in. Stay curious, stay informed, and let your mind keep flowing.